Well, hello there, mates. Welcome to me, National History Day Project. As your host, Regan Meany will focus on the unsettled conflicts between Parliament and King Charles I, which drove Great Britain into a civil war. And in March 1625, Prince Charles I became King of England, Scotland, and Ireland before his beheading in 1649. Once in command, conflict grew between Parliament and King Charles I. In short, the newly pronounced king used the divine right as an excuse to dismiss Parliament whenever he didn't get his way. At the same time, Parliament tried in many ways to keep King Charles I in check. Now in 1623, Prince Charles I and the Duke of Birmingham went to Spain for marriage negotiations. However, Prince Charles didn't want to marry a Spaniard, so instead he arranged the marriage between him and Henrietta Maria of France. Parliament was like Princess Henrietta Maria is Catholic, and the Church of England is Protestant. Thus, Prince Charles I and Princess Henrietta Maria kept their marriage negotiation a secret until 1625. Problem solved. While in the meantime, the rest of England blamed George Villiers for the failed marriage negotiations with Spain, and consequently, King James I blamed Spain for this outrage. So he declared war on Spain in 1624. As a counteroffensive, General Don Ambrosio Spinola bombarded the Dutch city of Breda, and by June 1625, Justin of Nassau surrendered Breda to the Spaniards. As a result, once Charles I ascended to the throne, he sent the wrath of England's Royal Navy to Spain to intercept valuable cargo ships and vanquish towns. This is known as the Cadiz Expedition, and the mission was a huge failure. Therein lies the conflict. Parliament, enraged by this failure and upset by the marriage scandal, began the process of impeachment. Meanwhile, disputes arose between the MPs, members of Parliament, about the King Charles I's behavior towards the Church of England. Thus, King Charles I dismissed Parliament before any of the MPs made their decisions. On the upside, he was forced to bring Parliament back because he needed funds for his war with the Spaniards. However, Parliament said no. So he dismissed that Parliament and just made a new one. In 1626, King Charles I started enforcing a dormant law called the Distract of Knighthood. King Charles I shouted from the top of his lungs, "I know you don't know this law exists, but off to jail you go or pay the fine." And now King Charles I has his funds. Problem solved. But Parliament, enraged by this action, did a vote to grant a subsidy of £140,000. And you ask why? Here's why. The House of Commons agreed to allow the king to collect tonnage and ponage, but only for a period of 1 year. In this manner, the House of Commons tried to keep a check on Charles's power by enforcing him to seek the renewal of the subsidy each year. Ha-ha! As a counterattack, King Charles's allies in the House of Lords, led by the Duke of Birmingham, refused to pass the bill. And onwards and upwards, the war with the Spaniards was not going well. So the king shouted across the English Channel and said, "White Flag Nation, help us!" But the French politics had changed under Cardinal Richelieu, and the French betrayed England. So, by June 1626, Charles I said, "Let's help the Huguenots rebel against the French." So, he once again sent the wrath of England's Royal Navy to the Huguenots' last major stronghold. But the Frogs had set up a blockade, and the battle became famously known as the Siege of La Rochelle. From this new war against France, King Charles I needed more money, and he looked towards Parliament to grant him the funds to wage his war. However, Parliament surprisingly said yes. And here's the catch. He was to sign the Petition of Right of 1628, which will restrict the king's power. So the king, being desperate, he signed it, but he also ignored it as if it didn't exist. And by 1629, Parliament held secret meetings and began drafting the 3 resolutions. But Charles believed in his divine right, thus refusing to comply with parliamentary demands. He dismissed Parliament, ruling on his own for 11 years, resulting in yet another failed compromise. During the 11-year tyranny, King Charles I introduced a feudal tax in 1635 known as ship money. As a result, many resisted to pay this tax, and off to jail they went. With a change of heart, King Charles started to reform the Church of England to be more traditional, like Catholicism. In 1633, he appointed William Laud to Archbishop of Canterbury. William Laud started a series of unpopular changes to the Church of England, such as enforcing the Book of Common Prayer into the Church of England's liturgy. And to chastise those who didn't accept these reforms, King Charles used the two most feared courts in the land, the Court of High Commission and the Court of Star Chamber. And as a result, this caused major conflicts with the Scots, which triggered the Bishop Wars, and there were multiple of them. That's why it's called Bishops' Wars, with an S. To subdue the Scots, King Charles needed more money. Therefore, he recalled Parliament in 1640. He asked Parliament, saying, "Give me more money," and the House of Commons agreed to allow King Charles to raise the funds for his war. But there is a catch. Parliament demanded the discussion of various abuses of power. Neither of the sides gave ground on this matter, of course, and eventually Parliament was dismissed 3 weeks later. Thus, Parliament became known as the Short Parliament. And King Charles I fought the Third Bishops' War, which ended with the Treaty of Ripon. And he owed a lot of money to the Scots, so the Long Parliament assembled in November 1640 under the leadership of John Pym. This time, Parliament revolted and by passing the Triennial Act, restricting the king's power, and King Charles I, regrettably and forced, he granted their wish in February 1641. But that was not enough. In May, Parliament proposed an even more far-reaching act, which provided that Parliament could not be dissolved without its own consent, and of course, being forced, King Charles I agreed. So without delay, King Charles I started compromising for once, and by agreeing to the Bills of Attainder, authorizing the execution of Thomas Wentworth and William Laud. Furthermore, ship money, fines in the distraint of knighthood, and forced loans were declared unlawful. And lastly, the hated courts of Star Chamber and the High Commission were abolished. However, Parliament wasn't done scrutinizing King Charles I, and Parliament intended to impeach Henrietta Maria. So Charles decided it was time to stand his ground, and he set out to arrest the 5 MPs who led the anti-Stuart faction on charges of high treason. But, consequently, Henrietta Maria made the mistake of informing a friend, who in turn alerted Parliament. So, King Charles I stormed Parliament on January 4th, 1642, with an armed force. King Charles I got there too late, and to which William Lenthal famously announced, "May it please your majesty, I have neither eyes to see, nor tongue to speak in this place, but as the house is pleased to direct me, whose servant I am here." That marked the beginnings of the rebellion. On the flip side, Parliament now believes King Charles I had started a civil war, and the two groups formed: the Roundheads, who supported Parliament, and the Cavaliers, who supported the king. Finally, the Civil War started on October 25th, 1642, with the Battle of Edge Hill. The two groups fought restlessly with an uppercut, a right-hand jab, an uppercut, a right-hand jab, and the war favoring neither sides up until 1644. The Battle of Naseby, where the war was decisively in favor of Parliament. No surprise there. Now, legend has it that King Charles I committed treason by visiting the Scottish, supplying the Scottish rebels for an invasion into English territory. Nevertheless, in 1648, King Charles was captured. As a last attempt to save the monarchy, Parliament tried to reason with King Charles I, but King Charles believed in his divine right and refused to compromise, revealing his last stand. As a result, on January 30th, 1649, King Charles I was beheaded, in which his last words were, "Death is not terrible to me, unless God I am prepared." The English Civil War ended with the absolute monarchy, and the conflict gave headway to a new and profound England.